walking in a room, speaking at a conference where I don't think they get me. So just being comfortable in your own skin and realizing that your uniqueness is your advantage. There are disadvantages to it, but no one's like me. And that is my advantage. And so we can't just try to be like men. We have to be who we are, but also adjust to them.
My uniqueness is my advantage.
Tweet that.
Kathy?
So, when I started in the industry, my background was technical. So I was the one that would sit at a computer and I would program, and that's what I did. I got an opportunity to move to CDK, or EDP at the time. And what was interesting is my role was to be responsible for our minority dealers at the time and our women dealers. And what was really interesting is, to Carrie's point, often when I walked into the room, I was the only female and I was the only African American. And what was interesting about that is the first time I walked in, I was terrified. And several times after that, I've been terrified. But when you go in and you're confident in what you do, confidence starts inside. It doesn't start with someone giving you the high five and the okay. They can only co-sign on what you already do. I walked in terrified. They could see it on my face. It was authentically on my face. Because the minute someone looked at me and expected me to speak or expected me to say something, they could see that I was like stuttering and struggling for the words. And over the years, I've had some very influential men in my life, dealers that sat down, and actually in the minority dealer space, there were 71 African American women, or I should say minority women dealers that took me under their wing, and they were like, come on, girl, we need to harden you up. When you have people that support you, and you build that confidence from inside, it shows genuine. And so when I talk about being in a male-dominated world, you bring your own strength, but if you aren't confident in what you know, if you're not confident in the fact that it doesn't matter how big they are, how tall they are, it doesn't matter who it is. If you come in with what you know and you're genuine about it, it shows. And you all of a sudden feel really good about it because you already know based on what people get back. I talked to a young lady yesterday, and she shook my hand. And she had that left hand where it's like you grab a little tip like this. I grabbed her hand and I said, pocket me. Basically, she shook my hand. And it felt different for her. And from that point on, it was funny as she was walking around the conference, I kept seeing her telling people, shake my hand.
She shook my hand. She shook my hand.
Shook my hand. Confidence starts inside. And so when you're in this environment, when you're walking into dealerships, when you're going in and you know, don't be discouraged by the fact that they give you that look like you don't know what you're doing or you're too pretty to be here. I actually had a dealer tell me. I said, yeah, I am, but guess what, I'm smart too. So bring it, because when you have confidence and when you're secure about who you are and what you know, you have to be prepared. Preparation is so important. You can't go in thinking that you're going to wing it, even though oftentimes I say I'm going to wing it. But you got to be prepared, you got to be comfortable about what you know, and then you got to just show that and stick your chest out, but yeah, stick your chest out, because confidence shows all over you. And I think that's the way that you get to the next step in this business.
I love what you just said, which is, you're too pretty to be here. And your response was, but I'm smart too. And so you didn't take that as an insult, even though you probably did and should have. But you don't wear it as an insult. You just get past it. You move past to what your point is, and you let him off the hook so that he can think about why you were there.
One comment I'll make, and I often have heard women talk about, there's certain things that guys will say and that should be offensive. If you let it offend you, they will keep doing it. So, yes, I'll joke about it. I have a great sense of humor. It doesn't always come across when I'm on stage and I'm a little nervous. You probably can't tell. But if you let it offend you, that becomes a weapon they can use against you. You can coach and counsel and train later, but don't let it show because they will use that against you.
Can I just add one more thing based on what she said? I'm sorry, Susie, I'm hogging your time. The other thing about like being different, I think your uniqueness is like your value, is that we have to remember that we belong. We belong. We belong here, we belong in management, we belong. And I think when I've been nervous walking into a room or presenting to a group of dealers and no one looks at me and my own voices are the problem. I'm telling myself that they're going to know I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud. I don't belong here. And no one thinks that maybe, but I'm telling myself that.
That's a real thing. It's called imposter syndrome.
Yes.
I have it almost every day of my life. I genuinely wake up like, I think this might be the tea to figure out. I have no idea what I'm talking about. My path was very different in the sense that I walked into a dealership. I was working at dealerships, and it was all alpha males and me who struggled to speak up at my own Thanksgiving dinners. And I've evolved, but each stage of my life has been looking back and trying to figure out who do I want to be right now. And what I learned, and someone at our very first Women in Automotive said this to me, and since then I've been very cognizant about it, but we have these preconceived notions of who we are supposed to be in the roles that we have. And what we have to do is we have to break those notions for ourselves. You don't have to be the strong bitch in the room. You don't but you don't have to be something inauthentic to yourself. Identify what it is about you that is unique, who you want to be in that role, and don't allow anybody else's perspectives or what you think, that little voice in your head, what you think that is supposed to be. If you're authentic to yourself, because yes, you need to be secure, you need to walk in, but it's also okay to be insecure. It's okay to question yourself, and it's okay to cry. We don't have to be these things of putting on this armor of being the strong woman. We have so many levels to us, and it's okay to be all those levels. But in each of those rooms, identify that room, identify that personality, communication, learn how to speak that language to the person that you're speaking with. And then as you go, just evolve it with every stage, because that person that I was in my last role is not the person that I am in this role. That's not the same personality that I have to put on for the room that I have to be in, at the table that I have to be in today. That would be
I just wanted to add something real quick. Another way to think about this is what I talked about before, right? And we all nodded our heads that this industry is ripe for change and has been for a very long time. And I taught a guest lecture a couple weeks ago at one of the Cal State universities on marketing and presented some things that we're doing with Kia and our marketing programs. And I asked the question just because I'm always curious. This is about 40 students. They were seniors, marketing majors. How many of you are doing marketing as a profession after this? They all raise their hand. How many of you want to do automotive when you graduate? How many of you want to be like me? I got no hands. The last time I asked that question was in front of about 120 students at a different location. And I got about 4 or 5 at least. This time around I was like, really? Oh man, nobody wants to be in automotive. And I proceeded for the next hour and a half to talk not only about Miro and Stinger and some other things that we're doing, but also about what you think this industry is probably not what you really would experience if you were in it. And the fact that we talk about our uniqueness, that's awesome, because guess what? Millennials, and especially Gen Z, they don't want our industry to look the same as it has before. And I don't literally just mean the people, but I just mean the way things have been done. And so I think it's actually a real benefit if we think about, I don't want to be like necessarily everybody in the room. You're doing our consumer base a great service. Because when I ask them, how many of you bought a car? A bunch of them, okay, yeah, I bought a car. I'm going to buy a car soon. How many of you like the process? Keep your hand up. Nope, none. They don't want it to be the way it's been. And I think some of our really good dealers are the same way. They realize that change is coming. And they realize that the only way change will happen is if you invite more of that unique voice, more of those perspectives to the table. It's really hard to solve a problem that you've been part of for decades on your own. No matter if you're male, female, old, or young, doesn't matter. And I relish that at this company, and talking to people like Michelle, like Craig and John and everybody else in this room that I work with, because I want to know what you think. And if you tell me you have no experience in marketing whatsoever, I want to spend more time with you, because that's going to help me understand how to get to a better solution. So I would just say, again, talking to a lot of young people lately about this industry and and about buying cars, and about how it is, and they said, oh man, what a hassle. I don't know, that doesn't sound like me, I want to do tech. I'm like, but we're like a cell phone on wheels, right? And they're like, nah, I don't think so. Okay, anyway, next topic.
So, well, that's actually a really good transition to the next question, so I'll let you start. And that is leadership skills. So, if you're working in an environment where you're not being nurtured, you're not being groomed, you have to figure out your leadership skills on your own. How? Tell us what your approach has been to leadership and how your skills differ from men that you've worked for, and if there's anything in particular that you thought was really effective.
I think leadership is a hard one because it's not one of those things that you can easily teach someone to, I'm going to put you through a class for a week and you're going to come out a great leader. I think a lot of that is just learning as you go. And what I've tried to do is pick up things from people that I look up to, that I admire, that I want to be more like. And I've tried to kind of put to the side the things that I don't like. So if someone is being intimidating or angry about something, or just not effective and not listening, okay, put that to that one side. That's not what I want to be when I actually become this great leader. And I think that's an easy thing for anybody and everybody to do. And I would encourage folks to look at that outside of our world again, where you've got leaders, whether they be in tech or other industries, that people tend to gravitate to. It's like Elon Musk never has to say more than 2 words in the media, just, what are you saying? They don't have to market because they have somebody at the top who the media wants to pay attention to all the time. I don't necessarily think he's a great leader, but I just think he's somebody that you can learn something from, right? How do you cultivate the conversation without almost even trying, really? And so to me, leadership it's so many different things. It's hopefully people want to work for you. They want to work with you. They want to get your advice. They want to help you. Because ultimately, especially in a small company like Kia, you can't do it alone, right? You need people's help. And that's why I think people like Michelle and others in this room are, nod their heads the same thing. It's got to be a team, and we all have to be leaders at our own levels in different ways. And so, I don't know, I wish I had that one thing that I did, or that one course that I took, or that one piece of advice. It's just be the person that you want to work for. And hopefully that works for others.
It's funny. I remember I was here for about a year, less than a year, and I became a manager for the first time. And boy, did I make some serious mistakes. Especially because when you first become a manager, if you're a manager now that you're having to lead what were formerly your peers, oh my gosh, that is the hardest job to be able to do. And I didn't do a very good job of that because then all of a sudden I was responsible for doling out the work and telling people what to do, and I already knew how to do it, and it was my way or the highway. I didn't allow for any variation, and it was not a pretty sight, I don't think. But the second time I did it, I went into it by just simply asking what everyone did, asking for all of their challenges, having them come in and say, if you could make one project that you have, or one job, or one customer case go away, which one would it be? Which is causing you the greatest pain? Give me those. So then I took all of those, and then I just made them go away, and I handled it myself. So it accomplished a couple of things. It showed them that I knew what I was doing, that I was there to help them, and that they could rely upon me and count on me to be able to, so they could raise their hand to say, I'm struggling with this, because you need the people that work for you to realize a safe zone. There's nothing that's more risky or harmful than having someone who's afraid to say that they're struggling, because that's going to be a problem, right? And so we all succeed together. So I think in terms of leadership qualities, it's really about taking the time to understand the job that someone who works for you is doing. And I think that's kind of what you said, and being there to be able to assist them and provide them with guidance and direction, and then having that conversation about what is it that you aspire to, where you want to go, but also having the courage to be honest to say, these are the areas of your job that you're not nailing at this point in time, but you know what? You totally can, and here's how you're going to do it. And it's been so fantastic when there are those opportunities where you have those conversations, and then folks just totally shine after that, and then you operate from a position of trust. I think the trust is really one of the biggest things.
Gary?
I made a lot of mistakes early in my career too. I became a manager very early, a couple of years into my career, and I think for years I made mistakes as a manager. I certainly had the trust of my people, and I think that's how I got away with it in some ways. But my biggest problem was that I had a kind of a pace-setting management style where I'm going to lead us to a championship. Without thinking about the entire team, it's more of like jump on my back, and I'm going to get us there. And so we won, but we didn't really win because every single person was a part of that. And that was a problem. And I still struggle with that. I want to go back to that at times. And I think ultimately delegation is really where you become a real leader, where you allow people, really you're trying to get them to replace you, which is very hard to think about. But if you can get somebody and coach them to a point where they could take your job, you've really arrived as a leader. And that means that you have to enable them to be in situations where they can fail in a safe setting. And that's really been, throughout my entire career, the hardest thing to overcome when it comes to leadership is letting people fail. Letting my children fail is hard to do. But I think ultimately that's where you arrived as a leader.
I think I'll just add one little bit to that. I think as women, we learn to do things, and then we have that little conversation with ourselves. Is it going to be faster if I do it myself? And that's why we don't delegate. And when we don't delegate, we don't develop other people. It's the hardest thing. Kathy?
So I won't go through the people that I've managed because I think we've covered that and I agree with what's been said. In the role I have today, I'm an individual contributor. I partner with our local baseline rep that actually owns our client accounts. And my job is to really influence them to get to the next level or to do really what I want them to do. And that's not always easy. When you think about leadership, leadership isn't, for me, in a collaboration role. It isn't trying to tell them specifically. It's trying to encourage them, helping them understand why it's important so we move together. And what I've been successful at is watching those that are around me. I love mentoring because that's a big deal, but I also love, as you watch people that you want to be like. I mean, they're leaders in our organization that I'm just in awe because of how they lead, their vision, how they strategically guide the organization forward. And I watch some of the things that they do, and that has helped me as I collaborate with our over 300 salespeople in supporting my clients. So when I look at, well, I need to get this client a better contract, or I need to make sure we resolve this client issue, it isn't necessarily about telling them this is what you better do or this is what we need to do. It's helping them understand the value of collaborating and making sure that we're doing the right thing for the customer. So whether you're an individual contributor or whether you are a leader that is managing people, making sure you understand what the end goal is and being able to give that vision and share that vision so that you can influence people to follow you, I think is what leadership is.
So don't get mad at me about the statement I'm going to make, but always preface with something like that. Sociologists claim that millennials have a tendency, because we were told by our parents that we can do anything and be anything and get all those promotions, that we quickly want our promotions. We believe that we are earning something, and so we don't always ask for things. So for me, I think that when we're talking about leadership, taking the responsibilities instead of asking for the promotion, I think can make you a leader very quickly. When you can jump in, you don't have to have a title to be a leader, first and foremost. So if you take those responsibilities and earn the respect of your peers and your team and your managers, you can move into a leadership role a lot more quickly. And I've seen that as in my mentees and in myself when I put myself in the position to be seen as a leader and try to take those responsibilities and hone those. That's when I think that career path happens. But then also in the differences between males and females, but one of the things that you were asking about when it comes to leadership, again, identifying your strengths and weaknesses and understanding that, okay, well, I'm good at listening, I'm good at problem solving, and that's not something that my peers doing, so that if I can jump into that role and show them that, then they're going to see me as a leader, and that helps pave your career path. So just on that millennial thing, I think a lot of times we feel stuck because we're not getting the accolades that we want, but we're also asking for it 16 minutes into the job. So making sure that as millennials, we're proving our case and then asking for it. Don't be afraid to ask for it once you've earned it either.
So I have one more question, and I'm gonna ask the question, but then we're gonna take questions from the audience. And as you answer their questions, also answer the question I'm about to ask of the panel, okay? So this summer, Kia and also Hyundai announced some restructuring of how the company develops products and does planning and develops talent pipeline to put more power in the regions and less direction from the top, so that they can be more responsive. And it's a really good model that's worked for other companies across other sectors as well. So this is a great opportunity for everyone here to really think about where your future is and what it is that you want to do, because things are going to be changing. So what we talked about here, how can the things we've talked about spark change within the company, within the industry, and for the people who are here with us today and will be part of our future conversations? And with that, just think about that for a minute. And with that, we'd like to take questions from the audience. We have a microphone set up here, so please come in and ask your questions of the panel. Come on. We didn't answer all the questions in the world. What's keeping you up at night? What would you like to know more? What are your challenges? Oh, we have submitted questions. Okay.
Hi everybody, thank you, and it was great hearing and having so much inspiration from so many women. Such a diverse group, and a lot of times I'm the only Hispanic woman in a room, and I feel I can relate to that with many of you. And I wanted to ask if you ever had any, I know all of us, or some of us have significant others, if you've ever had to have that conversation about working so much, not only with your kids, but also with your significant other, and how you've been able to overcome that, and how you balance, not only taking care of your kids, but also your personal love life with that.
I love that question because it's something that I'm actively going through. So one, identifying both of your desires, your goals together as a unit. What is it that we want together? Because this is the career that I want. These are the stages I want to go through. And in order to achieve that, these are the things that I need to do. And first and foremost, having the open conversation has completely changed my marriage. I like him a little bit more now. But having that open dialogue and then mapping those together, because a lot of times we don't talk about those things. So we're just going day by day and handling the stress and everything, and we keep it a lot to ourselves. But instead, when you're openly sharing that and mapping it out together, then we can have those conversations and plan. So, for example, with my husband, what we've done is he has his plan of what he wants to achieve and what it's going to take to get there, and as do I. And I'm also the breadwinner in my family, which is not something that, like in my household, my parents are super embarrassed that I'm the breadwinner. And they really are, because in our culture, that's not something to be proud of and never say out loud. And then his mom is a super feminist. Whenever I get a promotion, they celebrate for like a week, take all their friends out. And my mom's like, let's not post that anymore, okay? So being able to have that open dialogue and say, okay, in order for me to be in this role, and with our future goals in mind, what do we need to do, and map that out together, and then what do we need to do? So I'm a big, big believer in the love languages. So taking that quiz together and identifying what is important to me. So for me, quality time is really important, and touch is really important. So that is what I need. What do you need? He likes gifts. So when I travel, I always get him something, and he is happy as Clam when I get home. So identifying those love languages and planning that out together is a great way to address marriage and how you can plan your careers together.
So I feel very bad right now because I've been married for 16 years and we haven't had any of these conversations. I need to go home and we need to come up with a plan. We haven't done any of that. I take it day by day. I've been married for 16 years. I'd like to say my entire life. And I should have disclosed one thing earlier. I used to be a retail widow. As of 3 years ago, my husband's a stay-at-home dad. So life has been easier, really, since he was a stay-at-home dad because I travel so much. And so my kids are happier, everybody's happier. I don't know if he's happier, but everybody else is happier. And having a stay-at-home dad is challenging because there's so much judgment. And you should see from teachers, from other mothers, where I have to tell them, like, hey, I'm the one that works and my husband stays home. So I'm not going to be picking them up as much. I don't know as many of the women, and there's a lot of judgment that goes around it. There's a double standard completely when it comes to the guy or the woman being the breadwinner. I think the challenge with him is that because he stays home and I travel, there is friction. Even though I need to work and we have a lot of luxuries because of my career and job and our lifestyle, there's still not always understanding because he's with the kids all the time and there's stresses that he faces, and so there's just trying to get him to understand the big picture and me also sacrificing and understanding that staying home with children is absolutely, in my mind, the hardest job in the world. And so having respect and empathy that he's been home all day, he hasn't been to a fancy place on a business trip, or he hasn't been to dinners. Like, I have a lot of luxuries because of his sacrifice.
So I'll make a comment. When you travel for work, it is not all fun. I mean, you get up, you're having breakfast with customers or other colleagues as you're preparing for the message you're going to deliver. I mean, I've done NADA for 20 years. I have been standing on my feet, I've been talking to customers, I've been smiling. When I was going to get coffee, when I didn't realize that I was standing right next to a customer, I'd go to bed or go back to the hotel thinking I'm just going to stop and have a quick glass of wine in the bar, and all of a sudden a group of customers comes in and they don't want you to go to bed. What's interesting is letting family know that. Family thinks you're going to Orlando. You're going to be hanging out at Disney, and you're going to be partying on it. No, you're walking around with kids that have ice cream cones while you're in a suit and high heels going from over here to your room, to the convention center, or to the meeting. Part of it is really laying out the expectation of what's there versus the vision that they have in their head of what business travel is all about. And so I think the bigger part of it, when my guy, he and I have been dating now for 8 years, is funny. I took a picture and I started to kind of capture a day in the life so that he could see, this is the meeting, this is me getting up. You see what time, look what time the clock says. And as I was going through that, I invited him down that following year, and he was like, what do you mean you can't go out to dinner? No, I have dinner with customers. I'm sitting here getting prep for the presentation I have to give tomorrow. So I think a lot of it, at least in the business world, when you're on the road, I did sales for a year in terms of covering the territory in Western Mass, upstate New York. And what was interesting is there was a lot of windshield time. And so when you're seeing pictures of those things that you really do, eating fast food while you're driving down the highway, let them know what the real life is, because they see it on TV. It's not the same. So set the expectation of what business travel really is, and I think you'll have a lot of them that'll be like, go ahead, baby, do what you got to do. I'll see you at home.
And don't think that that kind of business travel is not a great way to get away from dirty laundry, dishes, cleaning the bathroom. Like, that's what I love about business travel.
Well, I've been married for 33 years, and I've been in the car business for 32 years. And I would say that since I stay at work until after 8 o'clock at night, most nights, that my husband tells me I need to quit my job at least maybe once a week. And for me, I just have to know that it has to ebb and flow a little bit, where it's isn't really legitimately a crisis. And stay tolerant as long as I get home by 7 or 7:30. And if it's going to be later than that, there better be a damn good reason for me to be later than that. And I have to read the signs. And when gets right to the brink because his wife has never been a stay-at-home wife. And most of the men that are in my position that I've ever worked with have always had stay-at-home wives to help them. And so I have to really recognize and then kind of walk him off the edge of the cliff because I would say at least once a week he tells me I need to quit my job.
I find that talking about work with my husband is a really good thing because then he has a window into my challenges. When something really good happens, he's the first person I call. If something disappoints me, he's the first person I call. And so it's, often it's like he's just listening. I'm just talking and he's just hearing blah, blah, blah. But he's there for me. And the same thing with him I love to hear him talk about work. So that's part of our time together is that we talk about the granular things that happen at work and that sometimes he even has a suggestion that helps. So.
Mine doesn't want to hear anything about work.
But mine doesn't want to hear anything about work.
Mine is therapeutic if I listen to him about his work. Then we're okay. That one-way street.
My daughter's like, work, blah, 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 meetings, blah, blah, blah.
All right, I think we're getting the hook here.
Well, I have one question that came from online. So they wanted to know your opinions on how leave of absences might affect career growth from a woman's perspective. So family leave or taking care of a parent, things like that. Have you guys ever experienced some backlash?
I want to know this question too because I've been so in my head.
Yeah, me too.
Starting parenting that I feel like I've delayed it because I'm in my head about it, and I think we need to be more open-minded to our own. I think when we resent our decisions and look back, then it all of a sudden gets tied to the job and to the career and to the leaders of our company. So being open and honest with yourself, I think, is a first step.
And I think that I haven't had to take a leave of absence. I think I took a minimum when I had my daughter, and I don't regret that many years later. But somebody once said you can either keep climbing up the ladder, or you look at it as a ladder that just goes to one side or the other, just momentarily, or as long as you want it to. Don't look at it as you're going backwards. You're just taking a bit of a detour. But that's really hard in our industry, where I feel like my friends are in other industries. It's more common for them to take off more time, especially if they have a child or to take care of a parent or whatnot. Paternity leave, it's like a year long in Sweden kind of thing. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. But it's amazing. And I think, if our industry wants to change and attract young talent, we have to be able to say, look, it's okay to be a bit more flexible when it comes to some of these, policies and leaves of absence and things like that. And it's not necessarily a bad thing because you come back with a different perspective. So I think it's a win-win. I think it is for the industry.
So I actually did take a leave of absence, and I was gone for about 2 months because I had surgery on my throat. And what was interesting is it wasn't a negative for me because I had the conversation early on with my boss as I was preparing and making a decision about whether to do it. And what was interesting is having the conversation with my boss, he recognized how terrified I was because they were breaking 4 of my toes and they were fixing my knee, which was one of those kind of things that took me about 5 years to decide I was actually going to do. And so as I was having the conversation with him and planning, I talked to him about what I needed to do, and he and I talked about some things that I could do while I was on leave of absence. So it wasn't an official, even though I wasn't coming into the office, I wasn't working with clients, but he and I had a plan, and that plan led me back. So my suggestion would be honest about what you're doing and the time that you need, and then see if there's some type of a bridge that you can do while you're off. But maybe you can't because pregnancy is different. You have to take care of one person and you're screaming. It's like the last thing I want to do is think about work. But being honest up front about what you want and trying to plan for it, because there may be better times, like if the Christmas holiday, you're taking the last 2 weeks off. So can you schedule the time that you need based on what the organization is going through, and then how do you bridge your way back?
So I will add a little bit to that. So I lost my job right before my oldest daughter was born. And the company I was working for decided to close the unit, so I was out of a job. And so I intended to go back to work, but I couldn't get a job because I didn't have a job. So what I learned was to join the gig economy and do a lot of projects, and I did some really incredible things. I learned to produce conferences. I wrote a book. I started A Girl's Guide to Cars. So if I probably would still be like in some dark office in a tower in Manhattan, being poorly paid and grumping about the weather, and instead I'm here with you, and it's a much better life. So I think that one of the things that really is important is to keep building your skills while you're taking time off. And if you know that you're going to take time off, say you're planning a family and you're thinking about, or you want to, I don't know, you want to go get a master's degree or something like that, and you need to take time off, put yourself in a position with a department and a leader who will accommodate that and who knows that going in. I think that was one of the things that we heard yesterday from Marcy Carsey, who, when she was interviewed for the job at ABC, Michael Eisner, who ended up being the president of Disney, was her boss, and he was interviewing her for her dream job. And she said, well, I have to tell you, I'm 3 months pregnant. And that was 1974. I mean, you couldn't even really say the word pregnant in an office in 1974. And she told him, and he said, well, you can be back to work? And she said, yeah. And he said, okay, we don't have a problem, do we? So being honest and upfront about what your goals are and what your personal goals are as well as your professional goals and how you meld the two, I think can be a really good strategy.
I just want to add, not functioning in fear and instead functioning out of that collaboration and communication makes such a big difference. Every time that I was fearful of taking time off or going to the wedding or needing to be at home with family, and I either cut it really short or didn't go at all, I deeply regret it. So I think having those open, honest conversations. I was actually interviewing for this job with my boss, David Wren, amazing human being. And I felt apologetic for my salary, what I wanted, but also the fact that I really am investigating adoption and fertility, and I'm very open in talking about that with everyone. So I said, I just need to tell you this is how much I want, but I also want to tell you that this is my job will always be a priority to me, but this is really a priority to me right now, and that's something that you need to know. And as I'm rambling on apologetically, he's like, shut up. I'm like, whoa, you want me to work for you? Just stop, because ultimately, I have been there, I've gone through it, I will help you with the adoption process, and I still value you, and I want you to join. And it totally blew my mind, because I accidentally revealed this stuff about me, which is exactly what he needed to hear to understand who I was. So I think don't function in fear, function more out of collaboration and communication.
There was a follow-up question to that too, and it's, what if you don't necessarily have advocates or supporters who may listen? What advice do you have on how to kind of maneuver those conversations?
Find them. There's always someone out there that is willing to mentor you. I believe that you are never too set in your career or too old or too young to be a mentor and to be mentored.
It's interesting that Women in Automotive, the very first year I went to the conference, I had never really interacted with women that much in the industry, if I was to be honest. I certainly didn't hate women or, not interact with them from a work standpoint, but I'd never really networked with them in that. And the very first year, you guys probably remember, there were 3 guys at the conference, 10 guys, and I was with them the whole time. I was at the women's conference with the 10 guys. But what I found is that I didn't really understand what I was even missing in not having a community of women in that way. And so that's what Women on Automotive did for me, is that it doesn't matter what's happening at my work. I have now this other network of women that I could always go to, either at my level, people below me, people above me. So you can always build them.
But that's what we need to change, because traditionally women do not support other women, because there haven't been that many women, and I myself have been a victim when I was one of the younger women, and I always worked for my boss who went to get a new job, and then I went to work for him. So guess what? Well, she got promoted because she must be messing around with the boss, or something like that. Women have a very difficult time giving credit to other women for how hard they work and the job that they do. And let's face it, the reward for being good at what you do is more work than everybody else. And so I think that's really something to think about. We need to be the ones that step up and advocate for other women.
And you should ask how. The person who asked the question, ask for that. Ask for people to teach you. Ask for people to advocate for you. Ask and build networks outside of your own department or division. This is an enormous company, and you can also gain great information from people outside the company who will give you tools and resources for the things that you want. But the idea of mentoring, I think, is starting to age, and a lot of the HR experts are really talking about advocates and about and coaching and how we learn from all of the people around us, not just a single mentor.
So
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead. One comment I'd make is I did work for a woman who I think she deserved. I don't know if it was because of my personality. I mean, there was a lot in terms of we were just different, and we just couldn't click. No matter how I tried, she was my manager. No matter how I tried, we just couldn't click. And then it got to a point where I'm pretty authentic, and if she didn't like me, I was okay with not liking her. I mean, I wasn't disrespectful. But it was just one of those where I know we're not going to go out after work and have a cocktail. We're not going to socialize. We're not going to be friends because, and I think she was bipolar because every day she was really happy and nice, and then there were days she wasn't. So I say all that to say, once you recognize that this person is not on your side, then look for people that are. And I will tell you too, it's funny, the minute that that registered that no matter what I did, no matter how I dressed, no matter what I tried, she was just not going to like me. But she was my boss. And so as I started talking and networking with others that were in my circle, because I'd been with the organization long enough, so I had friends, I had people I could go talk to. And what was funny is they saw that. So they were able to tell me, what can you do now? You got to do this, and this is the way she is. And so once you recognize that that person is not there to support you, then look for people that are, because there are people in the organization that will support you. But again, you got to be prepared. You got to know what you're talking about. And I never slammed her. Okay, not while I was at work. My guy, So, but the idea was, I was honest about the fact that she's not going to help me get where I need to go, and there were people that would support me. And so, be honest with that. And if you're not finding people that will support you, kind of in your circle, then find them and network. Schedule those 30-minute interviews with people in other departments so that you can start to build your network. Because the broader your network, the more you'll find people out there that will support you, that will provide open opportunities for you. I'll make one comment about advocates. An advocate is a person that is advocating and speaking on your behalf. You are not in the room. And so you want to make sure that the senior leaders, they know, they talk about the elevator statements. And when you get in the elevator, you have that, quick 2-minute where you can introduce yourself. And I'm a whole bunch of, extra, but here's what I do. Here's where my job is. And those are the things that you want to make sure people know about you so that as they're speaking on your behalf and you're not there, they're good things that they're saying.
Kimberly?
I was just going to say, we're setting up a new group here, right?
That's my next
So
comment.
one way.
You guys are leading me right into that.
So there's a lot of us who are happy volunteers.
And I love that even more. Thank you, ladies, very much, just for your time today and your stories and being really open with us. I think we really appreciate that. So if you guys will join me in giving them a round of applause. I have a ton of notes, and I think Kevin and I were taking some of the same notes at the same time as we were bumping each other, yeah, I like that comment too. So to Kimberly's comment, we've talked, you guys may have heard me mention employee resource groups a couple times last time when I spoke at our team member meeting. And this kind of thing is exactly what we want to see happen here. So we are now officially ready to launch employee resource groups here at KMA. And one that we've been talking about is a women's group. And I think this conversation, the one that we had in August, are steps one to bring you all together. Basically, employee resource groups are people with kind of this, coming from the same dimensions of diversity and sharing ideas to help move companies forward and to get to know each other. as well. So we will have a post-event survey that will go out to all of you, and in that lays out more information on what roles look like, what an employee resource group is, and it gives you the chance to sign up. So I hope that you guys do it. It doesn't have to just be the women's group. It can be anything else. I know I've talked to a couple people about a young professionals group here as well. I myself am interested when I get back from maternity leave, maybe a parents group, since I'll probably need a lot of support as I'm going crazy on balancing. So thank you for the advice there. But I hope that you guys really do think about joining that, because I think we have some awesome women in this room that can really help us move forward. I think we have some pretty awesome men in this room. So thank you guys who signed up to attend today and to be part of this conversation as well. 2 quick things. If you guys, at every table, there is at least one chair that has a number underneath it. You guys will get a raffle prize. So the bag's in the back with Christy. If you check your chair, you might have to flip it over. I'm not sure what she did on that. But it's a book and a Starbucks gift card in every bag. So go see Christy in the back if you got that. And then we do have a token of appreciation for each of you that I will make sure that you guys get on your way out for your time. Thank you for joining us. Okay, now the excitement of the raffle. I should have waited until I said everything. But there's cookies and coffee in the back still. Everybody will be sticking around for a few more minutes. So if you guys have questions, please stick around. But thank you for being here, for joining us today. Oh, we would love to get a group picture real quick. Omar, is that right? Yes. If everyone could come up around the soul, we would love to try to get a group picture of everybody. We want to try to share on some of our social media.
No, this is mine. I haven't made any. I just yeah. What do you bring? Yeah. No, really good.
How are you, man? You going straight down with where is it? Yeah, give it up points and all that.
Yeah, I already
good
gave
stuff?
away all my points.
All right, good.
Why is it